Hi, I'm Lesley Logan. I'm big into Pilates, and I'm actually big in Pilates.
You are listening to the Brain Profits Podcast. We bring awareness to the reality that, in large, people allow their brains to control them, which is causing difficulty at school, at work, and in life.
Success in life and business starts in the brain. Therefore, we want to explore the challenges that exist for people and organizations so that they are in control of their brains and not the other way around.
Listen in, be inspired, and take back control of your brain, and you'll create optimal results in your life, organization, and community.
Ready to start the show? We are, so let's go. What's going on, everybody? Philippe, what it do? Stacy, how's it going?
Hey, great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you guys. What are you guys up to?
I'm out here in the beautiful state of Colorado today, recording this one. You guys should be out here with me. I'm in the Antler Hotel. It's very interesting.
Hey, I love it. Well, I'm here in East Tennessee, and the wind is blowing through all the heat and humidity, so we're good here. Holding it down.
No, I left the humidity back at home, so I'm happy about that. I was outside. We were taking a company photo, and there's like, it's hot out here. It's like low 80s, no humidity. I'm like, you guys, we could be outside out here all day. I'll be okay.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's beautiful.
Agreed. How are you, Philippe?
Nice. Good. I'm good. I mean, we're braving a thunderstorm here, so it looks like it's about to clear up. That's what my son sort of motioned to me. That's what I made of it. But yeah, no, we're good out here. Yeah, it's like, this is clear.
Like
time to go outside and play. But no, things are good out here in New York. Hot and humid. We are in the middle of a heat wave. You know, people are wearing as little as possible. Whether or not they have shaved everywhere, whatever. No judgment, but you know, it is what it is.
You did just judge it, and let me just say, shave or no shave, let that body go.
Oh,
I mean, if it's
in this heat, you got to let that body go.
Should we have you stand up to show
Wow.
us your booty shorts you probably have on?
No, because I got a really nice booty.
Oh,
It attracts attention when it is in long pants. I'm not showing you my booty shorts.
Oh, I love it. Well, hey, Philippe, that's perfect transition. You're talking about booty shorts and nice booty. Why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest?
That is what I think about when I think about Pilates.
Oh, nice. You know what? I mean, not such a bad thing to be thinking about.
No, so we've got an awesome guest today. We've got Lesley Logan. Lesley and I met probably a little over a month ago now, and we had an amazing conversation. Definitely one of my favorite people that I have met this year. So I'm really excited to have her on. So Lesley, it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm listening to all of your weather, and it's like, first of all, it's 108 where I am at, and we're going to get 6 more degrees hotter. And if we're lucky, we'll get some rain. So we'll have a monsoon that will come in, flood everything.
Lesley,
we just start all over again.
My brain, when I hear those temperatures and it being 6 degrees, I'm like, is there some location close to HELL that is like where people live? I mean, I
live in Las Vegas. I live in the city of Las Vegas.
Oh, so, you in city of sin.
Yeah. So, and I live like literally, when people say I'm in Las Vegas, they like live outside of the city. I'm in the city. I can see the stratosphere from my living room. I'm so close. I can see the legs of people hanging off of some weird ride because they have some sort of death wish. I'm like, you couldn't pay me to get on that thing. Those people aren't paid enough for my life to be in their hands. So yeah.
Especially after those rides are mostly afterthoughts.
I know. And so but you're talking about shorts. When I moved to Las Vegas, I came from LA, which is a little humid, not too much. You don't have to check the weather ever. It's like beautiful all the time. And so when I moved here and I saw all these people in booty shorts and like bikini tops watering their lawn, I'm like, come on, people, we can still keep it together in this heat. 2 weeks later, I was ordering all the shorts. I was like, all right, here we go. Where's the sunscreen? Because I'm going out like this.
That's hilarious.
Wow. You know, the first time I went to Las Vegas, it actually snowed there for the first time in 40 years.
Yeah. Yep. And I have,
wow.
It gets weird here, but you know what? We're not even the hottest because when I had a girlfriend who moved to Palm Springs when I'm in Vegas, and I would check her weather every day and go, you're hotter. It's 121. It's only 114 here. I feel good about that.
Yeah.
That feels like insanity to me. Okay. Mental note, never go to Las Vegas in July. Wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't do that.
So Lesley,
Well,
go ahead, Doug.
no, you go. You got it.
I was gonna say, so you're big into Pilates, and I wanted to find out a little bit about how that even came about. And maybe you can tell our viewers exactly what Pilates is. Because when I pass by the studios, I see these funky machines. I'm always like, that would be a really good stretch, but probably real painful. So
Yeah, they look like torture chambers. And back during like 50 Shades of Grey time, like people were like, it's like a sex dungeon. I'm like, well,
yeah,
not really. And then if you read a book that is written about Joseph Pilates as a person, you find out that he was like really into just making sure people had great sex. And so then you're like, oh, maybe I do work in a sex dungeon. I didn't know. So I'm Lesley Logan. I'm big into Pilates, and I'm actually big in Pilates. I'm pretty, I'll toot my own horn. I'm a second generation Pilates instructor, which just means I was trained by somebody who was trained by Joseph Pilates, who is a real person, who brought his work to the US in the 1920s. And he taught until he died. And then his clients kind of took it over and took it around the world. And I happened to live down the street from somebody, but I got into Pilates because I wanted a friend. This is actually the weirdest story to tell, but because I seem really outgoing and I can make friends really easily, but I felt really lonely growing up. Didn't really feel like I belonged where I grew up. I grew up in a really small town. And then I went to college and I didn't really feel like I belonged there. And then all the friends that I did make got married right away. I went to a Christian university, so it's not abnormal for people to just get married. And that's what they do there. But that was not my intention of going. I wanted to get out of my small town. That's why I went to college. And so I met this girl. I wanted her to be my friend. And she's like, come to a Pilates class with me. And I was like, that's a BS. Like, I can't do all the things it says. It's like an infomercial workout, right? But then I went because, again, I was like, well, I'm going to make a friend and then we'll go get some avocado toast and I'll never have to go to class again. And I'll just have her as a friend. I loved the class so much, though. I felt parts of my body I never felt before. You have to understand, I was actually an athlete and I was a trainer. So to feel different muscles that I never felt before, it was like so cool. And what I realized, I didn't know it then, but I learned several years later, that was like the first time I actually felt like I belonged in my body. Like, that's how good Pilates is. Like connects your mind to your body. So many people, you all know, they're walking around as like heads and bodies. Like, they're so disconnected. They don't even know the pains that they feel. And so to have this moment where I actually felt like I was in my own skin and feeling parts of my body I never felt before, I got hooked. I changed my work schedule so I could do Pilates every day. And then when I moved to LA in 2007, I met a teacher who's like, you should teach this. And I was like, can I? Like, I grew up with parents who like did the same job their whole life. And I had, $50,000 of student loans. I'm like, can I switch things that I'm doing? But I did. And I got so busy teaching Pilates during the recession. I actually had to quit my real job, in air quotes, and just teach Pilates. And so now here we are about 14, almost 15 years later. And I teach people online all around the world. I used to travel the world teaching Pilates before the pandemic. I did about 140,000 miles of travel just to teach people Pilates. And we also coach fitness instructors how to do what we do, because I want more people doing Pilates.
Wow.
Who's the we? You just used a we in there.
So my husband started working with me in 2019. And I think mostly I was like, if you want to travel, that's what I'm already doing. You can just come with me. And then you can do all the things that I don't like to do. So that's the we. He's the CEO. He does the websites and all the tech stuff. And he helps me coach instructors. And he's also the person who made me do YouTube. He's a reason why we even have an online platform. Like, I would have just been teaching in my studio forever, but he's like, no, you should do this. And I was like, can I, should I, how do we do that? And then he did the how, and I just did the teaching.
That is awesome.
Isn't it funny? You've said that a couple of times now, how we ask ourselves a lower level question to keep ourselves lower level. Like, can I? And it's an obvious answer. Yeah, I can. Mm-hmm. What's really the question? What really got you? What did you start answering in your head that actually got you to take the leap?
Yeah, that's so. I think I grew up like probably a lot of women, actually, just like playing really small and like not really sure, like you don't want to disrupt the boat. And like in the Pilates world, there seemed, and I'm sure in every industry, there's sort of like a hierarchy. So it's like, who am I? That's the real thing. Like, who am I to do this thing? And it took someone outside of the industry, which is my husband. He doesn't know anything about it, just going, well, why can't you? Like having someone else just ask that, like, why? And then thinking about it. And really kind of figure out like, who told me I couldn't do stuff, and like, where is it coming from, and really working on that. And so now it's like, of course I can do it. So it's almost like the person I am today, 5 years after starting our online business, is very different than the person who was like, who am I to be a teacher? So like just different levels. And so now when I hear that voice, I just know it's like, it's that old stuff. It's like, it's that old thing, the old habit, those old ways of what I was taught as a child. And I can actually just have a different conversation with myself. And but that conversation can't happen if you're disconnected. If you are not sure, if you don't know who you are, and you can't know who you are, just like journaling, you actually have to go into yourself and do some movement. You have to spend time with yourself to realize that, so you can have that conversation and really figure out like, do I really want this? And what's holding me back? Is it a fear? And then figuring out what those fears are. And then actually, like, when you call that fear out. So something that I do, there's 5 fears, everyone. There's a fear of rejection. There's a fear of loss, fear of failure, fear of responsibility, and fear of, I always forget one, but it'll come to me. Anyways, fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of responsibility, and fear of, well, anyways, we'll look it up and I'll tell
It's
you.
okay. You
But
can say
here's the thing.
heights.
Yeah. So it's fear of heights. There he is. So once you call it out, oh, success. Of course, I forget the one that I have the most fear around. So I have a fear of success because I've never seen it, right? I never saw it. So I have this fear. So when I call it out, it becomes really small and it doesn't feel really big. But when you keep it inside, it's a big deal. So anyways, thank you for that observation. It took a lot of work to get here. And now I really work on helping people, especially who take my Pilates classes, to figure out what that is. What's telling them they can't do an exercise? What's telling them they can't show up for themselves? Who's telling them that like they have to put everybody else first before themselves? Where is that story coming from? And that's all because I used to do all of that and I had to work on it myself.
That is awesome. Because
That
what
is
I hear
awesome.
when you say that is that you had to evolve as a person in order for you to reach the successes that you wanted, and that you had to change the way that you think.
Yeah, that's not easy to do, as you know.
It is not easy to do, because you've got to be very mindful about the thoughts that you're letting in, right? You've got to be very mindful about what you're hearing in your own head, right? And deciding what is going to be true for you or not. And
Yeah.
so that takes a lot of work. And so definitely kudos to you for doing that work.
Thank you. And I will say, it sounds really weird to attribute a movement practice to being able to do that work, but spending time in my body doing Pilates allowed me to have more practice evaluating how I felt. And so it's like, instead of just going in therapy and talking about it, like just spending time in doing movement and going, oh, like, why can't I do this? Why am I telling myself I can't do this? Like, that's practice. And how you are doing your Pilates practice, or how you do your yoga practice, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? So having that time to practice the different self-talk and evaluation has allowed it to seep into other areas where it might not come so easily.
Could you give us an example of what you tell yourself today that you maybe didn't tell yourself like 5 years ago?
Yeah, I tell myself every morning I'm amazing. I do. I get out of bed and I just like put my feet on the ground. I'm like, I'm amazing. Today is gonna be an amazing day. And you know what that does to your brain. It like turns on all this like dopamine stuff or whatever. I'm using the wrong hormone, but it turns on all this stuff in your brain that makes you feel good, and it becomes a better habit. And then you go off starting the day with that awesome, like, I feel good about myself when I start the day. So it's just even easier. So I tell myself that. I would not tell myself that before. I will sign myself up for things and not worry if I don't get picked. So I'm currently in competition's the wrong word, but I'm in a running for a job that I may or may not want. And when they called me, I was like, I already won this. I already won. They're calling me. Like, they've been following me for a long time. And years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, what if do they know who they called? Maybe they made a mistake.
What I love about that, Lesley, and what's resonating with me is that you start your day with the way of being. You just decide in the morning, every single day, I'm amazing. And then every action after that follows, because our brain's set forth to be right about whatever we say about ourselves. So whatever way of being we come from, we in fact do what it takes. And then we have the amazingness, and we see the amazingness, and we find the evidence of that. So often in our culture, you hear people say, well, when I blank, I will be blank.
Yeah.
And it's all backwards because, you know, think about work. Folks will say, well, you know, when I work enough hours and then I'll have enough money and then I'll be happy or fulfilled. Bullshit. You be tired.
Yeah, you'll be tired. I promise you.
And you don't have the joy because you don't have the time to actually, it all comes from, we've got it backwards in our society, and starting from that way of being, choosing it from that day and then living into it every single day. And you don't have to wait for it. That gets to happen now if you want to switch it.
Yeah, you are 100% correct. And that's, you know, I think like growing up, I grew up with a grandmother and mom who were like on like the diet, you know, yo-yo dieting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always like, well, when I lose this weight, then I'll have this one. And like I watched them lose 100 pounds every other year and they weren't happy when they lost it. So I saw that. And then I thought in a different way, I thought I was different than them, but I was doing that with jobs. Like, oh, when I make more money or when I get this promotion, I'm going to be happier. No, I just worked even more, felt even more like an imposter doing it. And I was tired. I was so tired. And so it was like, I remember just thinking, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better. And I'm like, what is that way? And it's like, well, how come I can just be happy today? Like, what do I have to do to be happy now? And that takes a lot, because that also like, you have to figure out like, well, what makes me happy? And then you have to like go through that thing and a lot, and it takes some time and you might not know. Like I always think of like that movie Runaway Bride, when she like doesn't know how to take her eggs. And it's like, then you have to sit down and try all the eggs,
yes.
You know? And I did this when I was single in 2013. I was homeless for the third time in my life. And I share that story a little bit because I think it's really easy. If you look at who I am online and go, oh, so it must be so nice for her. It is really nice for me today because I worked really fucking hard to do that. But there was times in my life because of financial circumstances that loans didn't come in. I had no apartment and I had to like sleep in a car or sleep at a friend's couch. And so I remember thinking, okay, if I can be happy couch surfing, I can be happy in a rental car. And if I can be happy with all this uncertainty, I can be happy anytime. And so I really went on this whole thing, like, where do I like to eat in this town? Who do I like to hang out with? What kind of jeans do I actually like to wear? And I just been the whole summer doing this. And it was one of the best times. My friends thought I was totally crazy. They thought I like went off the deep end, and I had the best summer, and it set me up to meet the person I'm married to now. It set me up for the business that I have now. And I think that if you are listening to this and you feel like you're at like some sort of rock bottom, good. Like you are exactly where you need to be, and it's going to suck, but you're going to learn so much more about yourself than people who are like sort of have everything they want and are still not happy. Like it's just not hard enough for them. They're not forced to actually make that decision.
Yeah. You know, I love to parallel that you were talking about with Pilates before as well. In all of this that you're saying, it's not this Pollyanna BS pretending that we're happy. I'm happy. But inside you're, you know, continuing to do all the junk that keeps you down. But in fact, it's doing the pain. It's working the muscle. I am happy. I am amazing. What would an amazing person do right now? What do happy people do? And then it gets to work. And then you keep trying out everything and doing the work to find out what is and is not, what actually brings happiness to you. And then you repeat it and you work that muscle again and you work that muscle again. And then you're strong. It's not, I say, and now all of a sudden I am. It's truly a working of the muscle.
And then you have to keep doing it. And I want to go back because Philippe, you asked me what Pilates was, and I didn't answer that. So Pilates is, everyone, a strength-based workout that is designed to balance your imbalances. It works the muscles that are a little smaller that you probably don't work when you're lifting weights, and you work the entire body out in every workout. So it's very different. I lift weights, I'm not knocking it, but you have an arms day or a legs day. You have like, you work special certain groups. Maybe you do supersets or, you know, all those things. But when you do Pilates, you actually there's about 500 basic exercises. You don't need any equipment. You can just do it on the mat. And I am a big proponent of every single person having a mat practice. It's why I made sure the mat was so accessible on our platform, because it is important to me that you do it. If you're a marathon runner, if you're a weight trainer, like if you can only be as strong as you are flexible. If you are imbalanced in that flexibility, you're going to tear muscles. And so you're not strong. You're actually very fragile. So the whole idea is that you work your whole body from the center out, and the center is not just your abs. So a lot of people like go, oh, instead of core, I'll do Pilates. That's fine. You absolutely can. So in fact, skip the core, do the Pilates. I promise you'll have better results with all the rest of your workouts. But Pilates is more than your abs. It's all the muscles around your shoulder girdle. It's the muscles of your front and your back side, your inner and outer hips. So anything that supports your axial skeleton, that's your spine, everyone from your head to your tailbone. And then once you get those muscles connected, then we try to test how connected you are by moving your arms and your legs, your appendicular skeleton. So it's really fun because it's like, can you move your arm without letting your ribs pop out? Can you move your leg without arching your back? Can you? And so every day is a different day. And it's going to, and that's where I said my Pilates practice helped me get to know myself and how I talk to myself, because I had to go, oh, yesterday when I moved my leg like this, nothing happened. Like I didn't arch my back. And today I did. What's different? What did I do yesterday that didn't support my body today? And so that's where it goes. So anyways, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page, because if you think I work at a sex dungeon, you might be trying to figure out how you can redo this in your life. And it's actually just through movement on your mat.
Well, so this show, what we try to accomplish with this show is to elevate and point out that people in general, and you've been talking about how you kind of started to figure certain things out, and you created something. But when you were creating something large in your practice or your, right, how did you go, or what did you see in people that you wanted to kind of point out or create the reality or position the reality that their brains or how they thought about what was going on for them in their life, how that was actually not the right move that was causing them these particular difficulties that you were seeing from your point of view?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, especially when I worked one-on-one with people, it's a little easier. Online, I have to kind of think about where people probably are based on like what I'm seeing in the world and kind of just make a guess, like for my own, like the person I used to be, what would she say? And what would she think? And then talk to that person. So first of all, in person, so that you can do this at your own, with whatever you're doing, everyone can do this. You're just a mirror for people. Right. So like they're saying something about their body, they're saying something about their life, and you can go, I've heard you say that before. This is actually like Stacy said, you said this 3 times. You actually have said that 3 times about yourself. You've actually said mean things to yourself 5 times in the time that we've been together. Just reflecting it back to them, because they're on autopilot, right? So how many thoughts, Philippe, do we have a day? Like, I don't know, 64,000, I think you told me on my pod, right? And how many of them are negative? How many of them are repeated thoughts? So just bringing that awareness to them. So it's a little easier in real time with someone. Online, again, because I did so much work, and because not every day I'll say I'm amazing, and then maybe an hour later there's a DM that someone said something. Like, there's people say weird things to me on TikTok. It's even worse on YouTube. And so on a bad day, I could take that and it can bring me all the way back to who I was before I did all this work. But that's good, because then I'm reminded of exactly where people are. And I can get myself back on track, and then I can actually use that experience and talk to the person like, hey, you might be thinking this right now, and here's why that's not helping you. Here's why that's not help. And so being able to be that vulnerable and that authentic allows me to bring people on the journey. And I'm not going to talk to everybody. Not everyone's going to use the same words that I use, but I think being able to bring that to people's attention allows them to go, whoa, oh, I never thought about like that. Or, hey, and it's going to hit them when they're ready. And you can't ever, like someone I've trained people for years. I trained some people for 10 years and they did not get anywhere close where I wanted them to be because they weren't ready yet. And we just have to be honest. I'm like, once you're ready to commit to this, then we can make change. And so I think also everyone, the more honest we can be with people with where their progress is and why it's not happening is important. And nobody wants to be that blunt, but I am. Like when people come to me and like, I want to do Pilates because I want to look like you. That's not possible unless you're also a parent of like a child of my parents, excuse me. We don't have similar genetics at all. Like, I don't know how to tell you that, but I can make you the best version of you. And when you're ready for that, then we can actually make some progress. But if you're just here to lose weight, that's not what we do here. That's not what I do here. And so when I say that to people, that blunt honesty is actually makes them like wake up and go, oh, I've been searching for this solution. And someone here is actually being honest. And I think unfortunately, it's so rare that it really does make people listen.
2 questions for you about that. So the first one is, what do you think makes a person ready? And then you can ask them in whichever order you want. And number 2 is, if you had to line up 10 people and you were saying this many people were ready out of the 10, how many people do you think are ready out of the 10?
How many people I want to be ready, or how many people are?
The R.
I know. I think what makes someone ready is their willingness to unfortunately get uncomfortable and maybe even be bad at something. And so we have to be able to be ready to ditch perfection. And I think we have an entire generation of perfectionists. And like I did some research on, I read the book, What Happened to You? And like, I think we have more perfectionists that they don't even know that they're perfectionists because it's being hidden under different things. But there's, because of so much childhood trauma, now it's being shown that a lot of perfectionists are just trying to like cover up their childhood trauma. And so there's a ton of perfectionists out there. And I think once they're ready to just be in process, the more we can tell people that it's actually better to show up with what you have than to be something you're not, that makes someone ready. And that's going to take time. And generally, like they'll probably have exhausted all the other things that didn't work. And they'll just be back where they are. And they're like, there's got to be something. And hopefully usually their friend who's like done the thing is like, hey, come on over here. I've got something for you. So I think there's that. It's like just being willing to be imperfect and ditch the overachieverness, which is hard for people. And then out of 10, gosh, since I've done so many challenges this year, like we do Pilates challenges, and they're not like be perfect at this move. It's just like show up and do 15 minutes of movement and you won for the day. Show up and log in. You won for today, right? Like that's how habits are made. It's like, what's the smallest way we can get you to show it? Like do the thing so we can actually get the habit in there. And we've done 5 this year out of, I think it's a total of about 10,000 people who've shown up total, right? And who's been ready? Less than 4%. So out of 10, what is that? Not even a person.
Wow.
Person.
That is
right. It's shocking. This is shocking.
That's more than that's more that weren't ready than I would have thought.
People will sign up for something and they don't show up for it. And so I call myself the accountability queen because I'm like, I am not making a membership. I am not doing stuff you don't use. So I'm going to literally take stuff away from you so you show up and do it. And that we get better numbers than my friends who do similar things, not necessarily in Pilates, but in the world where it's like, just sign up for this thing and do it anytime. It's like, no, I'm taking it away in 2 weeks. You don't get this. And even with that, so many people get in their own way. They miss a day and they're like, well, failed. It's another thing I'm not good at. And they just give up. So it's really, I don't like to get disappointed by it. It's like, how do I figure that? Like, what's the code? It's another puzzle, right? I just have to figure out the puzzle. But unfortunately, I think and I think right now people are so overwhelmed. I feel like I felt like the pandemic was such a great reset button for people, but then everything opened up and so many people went back to the way things were for them. They went back to the busyness. They went back to the thing. And so now they're overwhelmed because they actually had a nice pause and then they don't actually have the muscle that they had to keep up with a life that they had before. That wasn't what they wanted, but now they're overwhelmed and they don't have that muscle. So it's really, it's like, how do we get them they listen to things like this, but are they actually doing the work? So they're digesting, but are they integrating?
Part of our hope is to get people to listen first, then try to get some inspiration, right? And then try to figure out how to take control of their brains. So, you gotta start somewhere.
Yes. And I think that like, if you're listening to this and that makes you feel overwhelmed, like what are we all doing here? It's like, how do we crack the code? And they do have to start somewhere. And sometimes like I know that the Pilates I do actually really does work. And sometimes I see people sign up for things that are some weird metabolic workouts that have the name Pilates on it. And that's fine because whatever gets them in the door, that at least got them curious enough to show up and hope. And then maybe they'll do a Google search and maybe they'll find something and maybe it'll lead them down the path. And that's like what I always hope is like, they have to start somewhere. So we can't take away someone's beginning either.
Lesley, you just said something that's got me spinning, and this is probably not going to come out real clear, but what occurred to me as you're talking about, we had the beautiful pause, we resonated with it, we needed it. And now, I don't know if you said the words were more overwhelmed even than before, but that's got my brain thinking, are we? Because now we know we're misaligned. Before we were just in the rat race. And then we had this great pause of checking in and slowing down, and we were forced into it. and time with family and away from people we love. And we didn't come out of, so many of us were just waiting for it to be done that we didn't use the time to create a strategy for what we really want when life comes back. What do I want? What is my chosen new normal versus just what the new normal is because this is how we work now as a society. No strategy that came with it. And so I don't know. It's an interesting observation when you say we're overwhelmed. And I just wonder if there's some psychology to that now there's great awareness of how misaligned we are with our happiness, settledness, groundedness, all of it.
Yeah. I feel really lucky in some ways in that, I don't know if it's lucky, but I remember December of 2019 telling my husband we're on a road trip. We do tours and I was teaching classes and I said, I just wish that 2020 wasn't so planned. We had 8 countries, 4 retreats. Like it was gonna be the biggest travel year ever. And I said, just feels like there's no room for surprise. And I think that this year, I don't want us signing contracts a year in advance. I know that's not how the industry does stuff, but if they want me at their thing, they can wait until August of 2020 when I have time to sit down, look at all the options and like really plan out a more balanced year.
Thanks for checking out part 1 of our conversation. Tune in next week for part 2. Until next time, we're the Brain Prophets.